Hello, everyone. I'm here today to give my story. Father, please give me the right words to say. Okay. He wants me to share with you the things that I've gone through. I am the eldest daughter of three girls. Now 5. Um, I was born in the island of Jamaica. I was raised by my mother and my father. I was always told that I was the most beautiful little girl and everybody loved me. I was special, and but they don't know what happened. Well, I'm here to let you know what happened. Growing up, I've come to realize that I have put myself in a shell. I guess that's why my name is Shelly. No pun intended. But I've always felt different from everyone. I always felt called out for some weird reason. I always had a voice inside of me that always would let me know who I am and how special I was. I never really understood it, but nonetheless, that was my experience. I grew up with my mom, and I know she did the best that she could, but she wasn't the most nurturing to me. I didn't have anyone there to really teach me the things that I needed to know as far as nurturing and love was concerned. So I guess with all of that, I grew up very, I guess, closed in, not knowing that I wasn't happy, because I felt happy, I felt good. I walked around and I felt like everything was fine because I was always told so by this voice inside of me, but not aware that I had some things going on inside, which then now I realize led me to having appendicitis and having my appendix removed, and at a very young age, and different things of that nature. I love my parents. My dad, he was a hard worker. From what I know, he's always been a man of principle, very righteous. From my eye, he always did right. He was always there to support his people, but he just was never home. And I wanted him there because I loved my dad. I grew up, I guess, burying all of these feelings, and I had a younger sister, and for some reason, my mom and my sister, they had a better relationship than she had with me. And I always felt ganged up on when it came to being around the both of them. But thank you to Ahayah. He's always been in my heart to let me know that it was okay. Don't worry about it. He always explained to me what it was. He was always telling me, you're different. You're set apart. You're different. But I was young. I didn't understand. But I knew it made me feel good, so I went with it. Growing up. Sorry, someone's coming. How are you? How you doing today? Yes. Growing up, when I was in school, we shall I say, we came from Jamaica. My father came from Jamaica. We were in Jamaica, my mother and I, as a baby. My father came to the States and he worked. He worked hard. He worked very hard and stayed very humble, because I had the grace to hear the story on how he was in an apartment and he worked hard and he saved up the money and he got us to come here. Long story longer, I'm here, and we're living. So let me get back to when I started going to school, and these things only a few people are aware of. Some of the things that I'm going to expose, some things no one has known. I myself didn't even know I was holding this. I'm sorry for rambling on, but this is just how it's coming out. Please understand that. I was in kindergarten, I would say. I could remember being there. I had such long, thick, beautiful hair, and I was, I guess what they considered, I was light-skinned, long hair, so I dealt with a lot of attacks from people. You know, oh, you think you're better than us, you think you're pretty, you think you're this. And I didn't. I didn't. I just wanted people to truly know me for who I was. And not always have to fight or justify why my hair was so thick, or why I was light skinned, or why I looked the way I looked. I didn't have anything to do with that. But going through the years, I'd say about first grade, I started to be picked on. And I mean picked on very bad. I was bullied to the point where I was forced to do things that I didn't want. I forgive these young girls, I really do. Because they don't know what they were doing. But nonetheless, I did go through these things. Throughout the time, again, that voice just kept talking to me. There was a point in time where I got a young girl, she copied my work, and she was copying work from me. And my dad, you know, sometimes when he came home, I know he meant well. He would go over our homeworks with us and went over the math, and he was very critical. Like, you know, you got a 99, that's good, but I want you to get 100. And, you know, it kind of made us feel a little bit unworthy at the time. But knowing now his heart was in the right place. He wanted the best for us, the best that he knew how. So anyhow, getting back to the story, my homework was then corrected and changed. So we were in class, and you know, everybody's sitting there going over the work. And of course, the young ladies who copied the work from me, they still had the same answers, but mine were different. You know, so I was getting some of the answers correct, and you know, and one of the girls, she got one of the answers wrong. You know, it was still one of the answers that I had on the paper, and everybody was laughing. And then she pointed out to me, and she was like, "Be quiet." You know, before back then it was mush you in the head, and something inside of me just was like, no, I don't have to put up with this anymore. And I told her no, because this was in front of everybody. Nonetheless, she came up and she did exactly what she said she was gonna do. She mushed me right in my head. But then I got up and I punched her. God forgive me. But at that moment, it felt so great. I'm not even gonna lie, because I conquered my bully. And at that moment, someone else raised up. A new person was made that day. No one was gonna bully me anymore. No one was gonna disrespect Shelly anymore. Because at this point, I felt I had a voice. So that was the beginning of that. Now I truly understand why I don't like disrespect and why I react the way I do when it comes to things of that nature. All praises to the Most High for that. So after that, you know, going in, we're in school, everything is good. You know, just like, oh, sorry, son, let me turn around here. Sorry. Yeah, so, like I was telling you, my dad is the type. He's a hard worker, and he works and works and works. So guess what? We moved on up from him being into the apartment, to us living in Brooklyn, to us now moving to Long Island. Before I get to this point, the Most High wants me to go back. I did forget a bit of a part where I grew up in Brooklyn, and my dad worked, you know, he was working and my mom was working, so they would send us to daycare. And me and my sister, she's 18 months younger than me, and we would go to daycare, and, you know, remember going, and one time, still kind of vivid, but this is what I remember. I remember being there. I remember being around a bunch of kids and being in a room with a bunch of boys. It's still not clear completely, but I can remember a bunch of boys around and my back being on the bed, and I guess maybe they were fine playing with me. I'm sorry, this is the best way that I can explain it. I just can't fully remember. I believe that they just were fondling me and different things of that nature. So it, I was curious about why. Why were they doing this to me, you know? And all I can go through is I just remember images that the Most High is showing me in my head of different things. I may not be able to give you the exact know-how as to how, but nonetheless, I remember this image that is constantly in my head is me as a young girl. There must have been a little kid in the corner. I can't even see his face. All I remember is that I was curious, and I started to wanted to know, okay, well, what is it that they have, you know? And it started making me think about these things, I guess, a little bit more earlier than I should. And, you know, I was looking, and now that I think about it, I was molesting this young boy. But it wasn't anything of my knowledge. I was innocent, and I really was curious. I wanted to know because nobody spoke. There was no hugs, there were no kisses, there was no I love you. It was more, go, 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 get out, get out. So I kind of was left to do what is natural within me, is learn on my own and figure things out, which is my innate ability, is to just figure life out as I go. So with all of that in me, and now I'm knowing, it was all stored up in me because I have some kind of a way to block things out and not remember or just keep on going, because like I said, that voice inside of me just always kept me going, you know. So coming back into the time now where, you know, my dad was working, we're moving up, and he's making money, and he's decided that he's gonna have his business. He's opening up a business. We moved now to Queens. We're moving up from an apartment. We're having a house, and you know, it was a wonderful experience. You know, it took a toll on me because I had friends that I had made, you know, and we're younger, moving. But again, I don't know how it affected me because I was young and I just kept going. So we moved and we went to school in Queens, and this is how I got to meet these young ladies and go through the things that I went through as far as the bullying is concerned. You know, after a while, once I fought my bully, I had got confidence now. I was able to talk to people, and you know, I'm very sociable. You know, I know how to get in and fit in, I guess if that's the best way to describe it. I met a young lady, and me and her became friends, and really good friends really quick. You know, my dad per se always was telling me he didn't like this young lady. He didn't like this young lady. I guess because he started to see a change within me through this friendship. So, you know, hanging out with her was cool. It was good to have a friend that was in the neighborhood. I would go by her house, we would hang out, and it was wonderful. She was my best friend. I mean, everything. Then I became introduced to things like smoking weed, and you know, she was very sociable. She lived more closer off the main street. She had a lot of friends, so it kind of opened me up to a whole new world because my parents were very strict. We couldn't go outside past the gate sometimes, you know, riding our bike. We lived on a dead end block. So this was like a whoo, an experience that I loved because it was fun. You know, I had someone to talk to, someone that was there for me, and it was wonderful, you know. So through all of that experiences, I've learned a lot. Yeah, so started partying, going out, hanging out with all kinds of people, meeting people, having fun. Oh, it was amazing, and I'm there, I'm trying to hang out, and when naturally inside, I'm a shy little girl, you know, but I did what I had to do because it was fun and I enjoyed it and I didn't want it to stop. And I really liked the girl. She was my friend. You know, there was times where I had cutting parties and had kids in my family house. I mean, thousands of kids in the house, and I was starting to give trouble because now it was like the cat was out of the bag. I was done. I felt I didn't have to go through this anymore. I was having fun. I was having cutting parties and going to cutting parties, and we're talking about boys and, oh, when we get to this age, we're gonna do this. We would even go to church together. There was a church called Shekinah. We would go to church together. And then while we were in church, we're talking about boys and we're laughing and we're giggling on our knees. We were doing all of that. But nevertheless, high school, I remember I was the one that made this pact. Before we get to high school, we gotta break our virginity. We gotta be big girls, and so we go to high school. So we're going to high school. We gotta break our virginity. Me and her were walking. I met this guy, and I remember when I saw him, I saw a halo over his head, and I was like, "Who is this?" She was like, "Oh, that's my brother," and whatever. I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's so cute," and I didn't know you had a brother. And she explains to me that it's from her dad, and this, that, and third. Everything went on. Then later on, I get a phone call from this guy. I guess she gave him my number, and we started talking, and we became boyfriend and girlfriend. I was 14, he was 16, and so said I was gonna get that vow. So I did some things I had no business doing at that age, broke my virginity at a young age, not knowing what I was doing or what I was getting myself into. He was a smart kid. He got skipped and left and went away to college, and it broke my heart. We broke up. It broke my heart. But that just opened a door, because within that time, my father opened up a business, and now not only we moved from Queens, but Drake out there know what I'm talking about. Now we moved to Long Island. So now I was doing pretty good in school. I was getting good grades, but I still was just having fun, having a social life, hanging out because my parents were so strict. We moved to Baldwin. I was unhappy about that. I was like, this is not the time for you to take me and move me from my environment to a new environment. I was unhappy about it, but that was my story. That was what happened. So, that opened up a door for me that I wasn't aware. I became very promiscuous now because I felt love, and I wanted to continue to feel that because, again, I didn't have that at home. So the streets began to grow me and began to teach me some things, not some good things at all. I started meeting guys, and when I got to the school, of course, oh my gosh, this is the new girl. She's pretty. She has long hair, and all the guys were just loving after me and things of that nature. This awoken something in me that I didn't know, because now I remember, and I'm sorry, forgive me, because he's telling me again to go back. I forgot to say that I was molested by my cousin, but at the time that it was happening, I was liking it secretively, and it just made me feel very ashamed for that, because it was a pleasure that I enjoyed. It was something that felt good, and I guess that's just what I wanted. I wanted to feel good. I've had tons of other guy cousins, and some things have happened with other cousins and people playing around and doing things. This opened up a door. a really, really yucky door for me. So going back, after my husband now left and went to college, and I moved to Long Island, and I'm getting all this attention from the guys, and you know, this has now developed a mentality in me where it's like, I felt like every guy wanted me, every guy liked me, and it just fostered something inside of me. You'll hear more about later where and how it has affected me. But I started dating guys and getting sneakers and, hanging out with the popular people in school. I was tough because nobody wasn't going to mess with Shelly anymore. I knew how to fit in. I was sleeping with these guys, getting sneakers and stuff. And, just every guy that I dated or that I was with, it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard. You just had to show me that you loved me and hold me and hug me, and just the feeling of someone holding me and hugging me and feeling their weight bearing on me was a great feeling for me, because I guess now knowing the body needs hugs, and that's what I yearned for. So I constantly, I never not allowed that to happen throughout my relationships with any person that I was with. Again, the Most High was with me, and he would talk to me, and I would start to develop and grow and realize that, some of the things that I was doing wasn't right. But I remember saying to myself, well, you know what? Everybody else is going to hell, so I won't be alone. All the things we say when we're kids. I met this other guy. He was like 24 years old. I was in high school, and it was cool for these guys. They would come to the school, and I was one of the girls who was his girlfriend. And, I ran away from home. I was living with them. He's back and forth in jail, and I'm staying there. I'm hanging out with them. I'm living this life that I was supposed to. I ended up becoming pregnant at the age of 14. And I remember one day being at home in my mom's bedroom, and I had this excruciating pain, and come to find out it was a miscarriage. So my family, then found out that I had a miscarriage, and the baby was gone. God knows exactly what he's doing. And at the time, I remember saying to myself, oh, thank you, God, I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for that at all, And, but that didn't quite stop me all the way. After that, I had my cousins. They would come down and visit, and they all knew that anytime Shelly had party or we had parties, it was fun. It was very fun. He blessed me with a very creative mind, and family would come over. I have a large family. I have 27 aunts and uncles that are familiar with between my mother and father. So it was a large family. I didn't really need anything else. The community that I had was family. And and all my cousins, they liked me too. And, so I guess it developed an ego within me. And because I was so shy and so humble and so timid within myself, that I was always afraid. After a while, I became, afraid of being around guys sometimes, because I felt everybody wanted me. And, my cousin one time came down from Florida, was visiting us, and of course I had to take her around town and show her a fun time. And, because I was hanging out in the streets smoking weed, and we were doing things. We were in high school, just giving trouble, bullying and fighting other schools, girls, forming gangs, and we're fighting schools, and we're jumping people. And I ended up getting expelled from high school for having a fight because a girl decided to disrespect me, and I had to let the whole entire school know that she was going to, I guess, get what I felt she deserved. And the embarrassment that she tried to embarrass me with, I did that. Horrible. In front of everyone. And that fight involved a lot of people. The whole entire school. People were involved. I mean, building glasses were broken, hair was removed. I mean, it was a big catastrophe, that fight. And I remember my dad having to come to school and be there for the meeting that we had, and the parents had to sit down and consult over this, and my father, he was always there, but always was wondering why, what has happened to my beautiful girl, you know. But he didn't know. How you doing, brother? He didn't know. He was at work. He was always out. He was a gambler. He played the horses, so if he wasn't at work, he was at the horse, gambling. So we were free for the devil to just play with us and just teach us whatever. And again, I love my dad. I love my dad. He didn't know any better. Oh man. Oh man, let me stop. He wants me to go back. Oh, I always try not to talk about this. But he wants me to go back, so I'm going to do it. And whatever the Father says, I'm going to do. When I was in Queens, just before we moved to Long Island, we had a neighbor. And she would come over and babysit us for my mom when she was working, because my mom worked in the city. And she would babysit us and things of that nature. So mind you, I've been molested already. I've had my cousin fondle me and different things of that nature. So she came along and she decided that she wanted to do the same to me. She wanted to touch me and grope me and do things that after a while I felt was very nasty. I didn't like it. But then I got to like it after a while. And began doing that with other people. But then I can't explain. There was just something about me where I couldn't get completely addicted or completely consumed. Like I would be in the midst of a situation, but it wouldn't I can't explain. I wouldn't stay there for long, So we left and went to Baldwin. Again, that's gone way to the back of my mind because there's nothing that I'm thinking about. But these are the things that did happen and I did do for pleasure. I've come to realize that I've become a lover of pleasure, a lover of feeling good and wanting to feel hug and feel love, So as I was in Baldwin, I never was ever even interested or even, I never dwelled into that because that wasn't right. It wasn't right, and that's just how I saw it. That's just how I felt. My family felt that way. My father sat us down, had a conversation about that. It just wasn't right. So with that, I had to expose that. So now I'm going back to, getting expelled from school, fighting and just, I felt I was defending myself, So, and I won't say that those times were an enjoying time of my life because, my parents were strict and it was fun. I just wanted to have fun, and I managed to make that happen. So after a while, throughout the years, my mother was like, well, if you're not graduating, you should do something with yourself. So she told me to go to hair school because my mother went to hair school. So I did that. She said she didn't get her license and she wants me to make sure that I get mine. I did that because little do they know, all I needed was instructions and guidance. Because once I had guidance and instructions, I did exactly what I was told because there was always something inside of me that wanted to do the right thing. I wanted to do the right thing. I just didn't know what the right thing was. So I believe and I see why the Most High had me go through certain things because I had to figure it out on my own. I had a cousin, God rest his soul, he was there. I used to hook him up with all my friends and, I'm sorry, please forgive me. My mind is all over the place and, it's a bad after effect of smoking all these years too. But I'm doing the best the way that it's coming out and I'm being honest. I'm bearing my heart right now. And so please forgive me. So, he was there. I would hook him up with my friends. And, I remember when he started doing drugs, that he started dealing drugs in the neighborhood, and he became rich. And I remember watching this, and I'd have him hook me up with his friends and, being promiscuous, just doing all of that. And it was fun. It was fun. I mean, it was fun. That's all I could say. As a kid, I guess that's all I was looking for, you know. So then I'm just going into bits and pieces. It's all within the same time frame, you know. He started doing drugs and selling drugs, and I started becoming around this lifestyle. I didn't do any hard drugs more than smoke, but at this time I wasn't really smoking that much, because again, I don't get so held to certain things, but I'll dibble and dabble here and there, you know. My cousin got so big into the drug game, and he was so big in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, he was murdered. He was like my best friend, and he was taken from me, and I felt some sense of responsibility because I remember the day he started, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I could have said something like, no, don't do it, but I didn't, and I had to get that. Wow, I didn't even know I felt that way about that. Thank you, Father. But there's some things that I was involved in, and I guess I thought that was the fast life, and I was enjoying it because it was fun. Again, there goes that word, fun. So after a while, when my cousin came, and we would drink in the bar. I mean, we got sloppy drunk. We would go and fight people for no reason. We would go and have sex with boys, and it was just horrible, just horrible. And after that, I was like, I wanted to move. I wanted to leave where I was. Something inside of me, I knew I needed to change. I needed to get out of my environment. And if I didn't, that it wasn't going to be good. I needed to leave. And this was what I was in my spirit. And my mom allowed me to move to Florida. I moved to Florida. I was there. They got me a car and everything of that nature because I needed it. And I just had a dogma over me with my family where everybody, looked at me as the black sheep or whatever because I was disrespectful. My parents couldn't control me. I was doing whatever I wanted. They couldn't stop me. I would run away. I was coming and going as I pleased, because I always felt like, well, you weren't here for me, so you can't tell me anything. I fought my mother. I fought my father. It was bad. They couldn't control me. I wouldn't let no one control me. So I left, and I was in Florida. It was